Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's author webinar. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anita, and I'm part of the Learning and Content Management team. Joining me from the Learning and Content Management team are my colleagues Jennifer, Chandani, and Sridevi. So before we begin, a few housekeeping items which I want to just mention here. Firstly, please take a few moments to complete the survey or the poll you will see now on your screens. If you have a question at any time during the content of the session, please use the Q&A option to send your questions directly to us. And we'll try to answer as many as questions as possible during the session today in the Q&A channel. And in case if you're not able to answer all the questions, we reply to you directly after the session, unless you post the questions anonymously. And we also will cover some of the questions, the top questions at the end of the session today. For the best view, you may wish to drag the central bar on your screen to the right to enlarge the screen that I'm sharing. And you may also wish to enable the live transcripts via the bar on the bottom of the screen, which you could see now from my screen. And finally, our session is being recorded today, and you will be sent a link when the recording is ready post the session. So now let's quickly take a look at our agenda for today. So we will start by giving you an overview of the author submission process overview in Editorial Manager. Please note that the steps may vary depending on the journal configuration and the type of the article being submitted. And then we will also have a look at how to use the declaration tool in Editorial Manager when submitting a manuscript. So Elsevier's declaration tool quickly and easily helps authors create a comprehensive statement, which is incorporating the ICMJE, in other words, International Committee of Medical Journal Editors Declaration Standards. So this declaration tool will produce a statement in a Word format that can be uploaded alongside your manuscript and will appear in your published article. And we will provide you a brief explanation of the various editorial statuses your submission may progress through in Editorial Manager. And finally, we will provide some information on co-authorship verification. So now let's get into the Editorial Manager test site and explore the author submission process. Please note that I'm going to be using our training site for the demonstration purpose with dummy users and dummy submissions. So the training site is a good replica of the live environment, but it will look slightly different to your own profile. So please don't worry if you don't see things today that you normally see when you log into your profile in your Editorial Manager live site. And this may be primarily due to the rights and permissions which are provided for your role, and that may differ from journal to journal. So now let's quickly get into the Editorial Manager screen. Jenny, I hope the screen is all clear.
Yes, Anita.
Thank you very much, Jenny. So before submitting a manuscript, please always check the journal requirements via the instruction to authors link that's available at the top bar. So you can click here and view the instruction to authors. These instructions will contain guidelines on manuscript word count, file requirements, and any other important information for your submission. So it is always important to familiarize yourself with the journal requirements. So once ready to begin the submission process of your paper, click on Submit New Manuscript button. You can also see an eye icon here, which provide you more information on how to submit a new manuscript. So watch this video whenever you have time. So I'm just clicking on Submit a New Manuscript button. So you might see this screen where there might be some incomplete submission which was initiated by you or by some authors at any point of time. So if you have already initiated, you can just start and select and continue with the same submission. If not, click on Start New Manuscript. I have already initiated a test submission for the purpose of today's webinar. So I'm just going to click on this Select and Continue button. Okay, just give me a second. The system is a little slow. Okay, so now we are here in the article type selection page. So please select the relevant article type from the drop-down menu. If you're submitting to a special issue, please ensure you select the appropriate special issue article type from the drop-down menu. The journal may request you to link to your ORCID ID. If so, please proceed to do it. And once you are done with this step, please click on the proceed button. So now please attach all the files you wish to include within your submission in the attach file step here. So you may use the browse button here to access your computer's file list, or drag and drop from your computer to attach the primary file for the submission. Firstly, upload your primary manuscript file, which is available here. So mandatory file types are always marked with an asterisk, which you could see from here. If you select research data, so let me just go up. So if you select research data, I'm sorry, excuse me, when available, you will be asked to enter the URL. If you could see here, so where your data is hosted, and provide additional information such as a repository name, which is available here, and the title of the data set. In the future, it will also become possible to upload data directly into Mendeley data. And for some journals, cover letter is mandatory. So you could see if it's mandatory, if it's having a asterisk, then it means that it's mandatory for your journal. So for some journals, it might be mandatory. So a cover letter is a simple, brief business letter designed to introduce your manuscript to a prospective editor. So if the guide for authors does not specify what to include in your cover letter, you may wish to include some of the following items, which I'm going to say. Specify special considerations that should be given to the paper, if any. A brief background regarding the research involved or how the data was collected. And details of any previous or concurrent submissions. It is also useful to provide the editor-in-chief or the highest level editor with any information that will support your submission. For example, original or confirmatory data, relevance, topicality, etc. So please ensure the appropriate file type. I'm just going to go down and show you that. So appropriate file type is selected for the individual items from the drop-down. You may edit the description of the item, but please ensure not to use any personal identifiers. So the system will automatically order your files. So you need not order or select the order. It will automatically order your files into the order designated by the journal. For some journals, the declaration of interest, which you could see here, might be a mandatory step or a mandatory file type, as you could see from here. So we will explain this in more detail in few minutes now, but in either event, such a statement is mandatory from an ethics perspective. We also have a short video on how to use the declaration tool in Editorial Manager, and that's going to be now posted in the chat link for you all. So please bookmark it for your reference. So once all the files are uploaded, please click on proceed button. So we also have a short video on the author submission process. So, and that link is also now going to be posted for your reference in the chat section. So please bookmark it. And now we are here in the general information tab. So general information step will have differing requirements depending on your journal. You may be asked to select the region of origin, section category, if you could see here, and classifications related to your submission. So you can click on add classifications and add classifications related to your submissions. So classifications are fixed terms created for the journal, and these are different from keywords. Keywords are usually free text that users can add in the manuscript data step, which we'll see at the end of the session here. So once you've provided all the required information, you can click on Proceed button. Okay, so now depending on the journal's requirements, we are now in the Review Preferences tab. You will see different options on the Review Preferences tab. So you may have the option to request an editor to handle your paper, to suggest potential reviewers for your submission, or specify opposed reviewers here in this section who you would not prefer to review your submission. So please note, these are just preferences only. The editor may or may not use your suggestions. And once you've provided all the required information in this step, please click on Proceed button. So now we are in the additional information step, which presents you with a questionnaire which the journal uses to collect useful information. So please respond to all these questions as appropriate. And once you've answered all the questions, please click on Proceed. Now we are in the comment section. So the comment section gives you an opportunity to enter any additional comments for the journal office. And these comments will not appear directly in your submission. So please feel free to add any additional comments about your paper. And once you've provided that, click on Proceed button. Just a second, the system is loading. So now we are here in the manuscript data step, as you could see. So the system may automatically pull some data from the manuscript file attached to pre-populate fields on the manuscript data step. So required fields are marked with an asterisk. You may check, you must check and verify the data or enter the data manually. So please enter all the authors of the submission here. So before that, let me just the word count, it's available here, the abstract word count. So once you're done, please fill in all the authors of the submission, including their name, current email address, and institution. So I'm just going to click here. And here is where you can add authors for the submission. And you can enter as many as authors you wish to add in. And I'm just going to click on here and show you quickly some important information. So here you can see, you can give in the first name, last name. So there are some mandatory fields which is required to be filled by the authors. And one important thing which I would like to mention here is it is essential to choose your institution from the dropdown. When you start typing in here, the system is going to show you a dropdown where you can select the institution. So it's always important that you choose the institution from the dropdown, as you might be eligible for some institutional and society discounts that can reduce your article publishing charges for gold open access. And then you can also select the contributor role, so which is mandatory, as you could see here. So choose as many as the contributor roles and then click on Save Changes. So the authors may receive an email notification from the journal. The co-authors may receive an email notification from the journal. And you may reorder the author list by, if you have added many authors here, you can just drag and drop an author to the correct position in the list. And when all the author details are finished, filled in, click on Next. The next thing is the funding information tab. So you can add the funding information for your research by clicking on this Add a Funding Research button. And if you'd like to save, if you like to save, you can actually click on Save and Submit later. And if you do not have any funding information, you can proceed to click on this Funding Information is not available. And once you're done, and if you've submitted everything, all the necessary information, you can click on Build PDF for approval. Or if you'd like to go back and verify or verify all the steps which you've done or correct any data, you can click on Back button and proceed to do the changes. And once you're done, please click on Build PDF for approval. Okay, I think the abstract is long here. Give me a second so that I can correct it. Okay, I think it's right now. So we'll just come down and click on build. Okay, give me a second. Think it should be fine now. So I'm just clicking on build PDF for approval. Okay, so we'll now come back to the submissions waiting for approval by author. So when you click on build PDF for approval, it will automatically bring in you to this page where you can see submissions waiting for approval by author. Yeah, so you can see all the papers here. Just a second, the system is refreshing a little. Okay, so now the PDF of your submission is built, as you could see from here. And you can click on view submission. I'm sorry, my system is a little slow today. I'll have to just scroll back and forth again. Yes, we're just back here. Yes. So now you can click on view your submission to access the PDF of the submission. So you must view the PDF to confirm that the files and information are right. So I'm just going to come back down again and click on view submission. And if you click on view submission, there'll be a PDF that's opening up at the bottom. Yes, so the PDF is now ready. So you can just open up and quickly view to see if all information is right here. And if changes are required, you can definitely click on the edit submission button and edit your submission. Just going to go down. Yeah. And the next thing I would like to mention here is the ethics in publishing, which you see on the right side here. So always make sure that you read the ethics in publishing statement, the condition statement, before you click on the accept checkbox. So now I'm just going to come down and I'm clicking on the accept checkbox. And once that's done, you can proceed to approve your submission. Okay. My system is acting weird today. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. So just going to click on approve my submission. And the system will ask you for a warning. Are you sure you want to approve the submission? Just click on OK. And now your submission is submitted to the journal for consideration, and you will receive an email confirmation. So in case if you'd like to edit your submission file after submission, it is not possible to do it. So please contact the researcher support team or the support center who will be able to update your submission file. And if you want more information on the submission process, please watch our author submission process video. So the video link is again going to be posted in the chat link for all your reference. So please make a bookmark of it. So now we are going to, in this part of today's webinar, going to return to the submission process and look at the declaration tool in more detail. So I'm here in the declaration tool link. As we mentioned before, for some journals, this is a mandatory file type. So transparent disclosure of potential competing interest is always essential to meet your ethical obligations and nurturing trust in science. Elsevier now offers a declaration tool in Editorial Manager that quickly and easily helps authors create a comprehensive statement which incorporates the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, or ICMJE, declaration standards. So this statement can be uploaded as a Word document alongside your manuscript and will appear in your published article. So now to access the declaration tool, I'm just going to go back to the Editorial Manager screen. I'm just going to click on Submit Your Manuscript and show you. Where you can access the declaration tool. So it's available in the submission step process. So here is the declaration of tool link. So when you click on this, it's going to take you to the declaration tool. link. So yes, and please know that some journals I have nothing to declare button may be present. So please just check everything before you proceed. So this is a page which will give you all information about what is the declaration of interest. And when you're ready to begin, start clicking on Start My Declaration button. So this is the first page. So on the first page, here we are, research support for this reported work. You declare any support you or any of your co-authors received from certain types of third parties since the initial conception of this research. Note that you don't need to list any academic institutions or public funding sources from charitable foundations or government agencies here. You may fill in the details of this support by typing in the organization name here. And selecting any financial or non-financial support. If you need to add any other additional funding source, just come down and click on here, add another funding source, and you will be able to fill in more. So once you're done, finished filling these details in this step, you can just click on the proceed button. And if you'd like to toggle off, I mean, if you don't have any additional support that should be declared, you can just click on this toggle off button. So which will just allow you to go into the next step. So save declaration for later step, which you see here, the button you see here is like, would like to save the declaration for later. And if you could come back within the next 30 days to continue, so you can use this button. If not, once you've filled in all the details or clicked on the toggle button, just click on the other support button. So we are now here in the relevant support outside this reported work page, which allows you to disclose any patents or copyrights. So if you could see here, you can mention any patents or copyrights licensed to you or any of your co-authors. So once you've either filled this or pressed the toggle off button, which you could see here at the top, which indicates that you have nothing to declare, click on the next intellectual property button. So here you can mention all the details, the patent information, title, license, and any other information. And once you're done, you can even click on the toggle off button if you do not want to disclose any patents and intellectual property information. The next button is click on other activities. So other activities is the final page of the declaration tool where you can submit any further information that a reader could perceive to have influenced your work that has not been covered in the previous pages. So you can just feel free to type in any information here. So once you've either filled this or clicked on the toggle off button, you can just proceed to click on review declaration, or you can go back and edit the details which you have filled in. So click on review declaration. So this screen summarizes all the information which you filled in the previous step. So you can just go through that. You may click on the back button if there is anything you want to edit, or click on submit and download if you're happy with the content. So now you will be offered the option to enter your email address to save your declaration statement. So you will receive the same prompt if you wish to save your progress at any time while using the tool. If you do this, you will be prompted to enter a one-time password, which you see here, and you can then download your declaration. You can also go back to this tool and download the declaration again in the next 30 days if you use this option. Alternatively, you can also click on no thanks, I want to download a declaration without saving it. So I'm just going to click on this button now. So now if you could see here, the declaration tool has created a document using the information you entered, which can now be uploaded to Editorial Manager as a Word document. So I'm just going to go back to the Editorial Manager screen. So we are here, click on the browse button and upload the declaration of interest. Just a second, the system is quickly uploading the file. And here, make sure to choose the correct file type. So I'm just going to choose declaration of interest in the drop-down menu. And then you may wish to continue with your submission. So if you have saved your declaration, you can also access it from the home screen of the declaration tool for up to 30 days by clicking on access with one-time password here below, needing an existing declaration. So if you want more information about this declaration tool, please watch our video using the declaration tool in Editorial Manager, and the link of which will be now posted in the chat section for your reference. Please proceed to bookmark it and use it for your reference. So this is how you use the declaration tool in Editorial Manager. Now, in the last part of this webinar, we'll give you a brief explanation of various editorial statuses your submission may progress through in Editorial Manager. And we'll also see few information on the co-authorship verification. For that, I'm going to just go back to the presentation now. Jenny, I hope the screen is all clear.
No, Anita, I can see your notes.
Okay. Give me a second. I'm just quickly sharing.
Okay.
I hope it's all fine now, Jenny.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. So now let's look into how do you track your submission in Editorial Manager. An author finishes writing his paper and submits it to the journal. The system shows the statuses of the manuscript as manuscript submitted. Based on the workflow of the journal, the editorial office or the editor performs a technical check on your manuscript. They will check the manuscript word count, format, and figure quality, etc. The next step is assigning it either to the editor-in-chief or an associate editor for further handling. Journals usually have multiple associate editors who are experts in a particular niche within the broader subject area. So your manuscript will now be handled by the editor who has the highest level of understanding and experience with your paper's research topic. The status remains with editor until the editor either makes a decision or invites reviewers. The handling editor now has different action choices. Make a desk reject, send the paper for revision, or invite reviewers. So the editor conducts an initial screening of your paper and assess it against several criteria such as novelty, priority, and scope. And if your paper is a better match for another journal, you may be offered a manuscript transfer. Also, it's possible that your paper does not meet some of the assessment criteria, and then the editor will reject it before going into peer review. So if the editor decides that your paper is a good match for the journal, then they will identify 2 or 3 independent reviewers, depending on your journal configuration, and then send them an invitation to review your manuscript. So when the editor invites reviewers, the status of the manuscript changes to under review. Once the required number of reviews are received and recommendations were submitted, the status of the manuscript shows as required reviews completed. So the handling editor carefully studies the review reports. It can happen that the referee reports are conflicting, in which case the editor needs to find some additional reviewers. And when this happens, your submission returns back to under review status, as you could see here. When the editor has received enough high quality feedback from the reviewers, they will begin the decision-making process and move the status to decision in process. So the decision may need to be confirmed by multiple editors in some journals. So the manuscript then moves to the editor-in-chief's account. So the editor-in-chief submits his or her decision. So you might see there are different decision terms based on different journals. So the common ones are available here. Revise. So the editor is requested that you revise the submission. You will find the details of changes required and the deadline for your revision. in the decision letter. The next one is completed, accept or reject. So the submission process is completed with either an accept or reject decision. In case of an accept decision, the manuscript will begin its production process and you will receive further confirmation. The next one is transfer pending. So the editor has rejected your paper and suggested to transfer it to another journal. So the editor is recommended the submission be transferred to another journal via our automatic article transfer service, and you are offered a transfer. So we will await your response before proceeding further. The next one is submission transfer pending. So you accepted the transfer and the submission is now being transferred to another journal. So we have also published a video on submission status explainer, which will actually explain you how your submission progresses after submitting the manuscript, and the link of which will now be posted in the chat section for your reference. So the next thing I wanted to mention here is about the submission tracker. So we have now introduced a submission tracker tool to more than 2000 plus Elsevier journals. So once a journal is using submission tracker, an email is sent to the corresponding author when the first reviewer is invited. As you could see from the screenshot here, the email contains a link to the submission tracker landing page where the author can view the status of the review process of their submission. Note that the same link will remain active throughout the end-to-end peer review process. So we expect to have the submission tracker tool available to all journals in the near future. So this is the submission tracker landing page for a submission. So which you could see from here. So from here, you can see or monitor the complete status of your manuscript. So that's it about tracking your submission. The next thing we're going to see is about the co-author verification. So when submitting, authors are asked to list all the co-authors of the submission. Editorial Manager Journal requests co-authors to confirm their co-authorship, as this helps to ensure that the authorship includes all individuals who have made a significant contribution to the conception, design, execution, or interpretation of the manuscript. So how do I verify my contribution as a co-author? So request to verify may be for a new submission or a revised submission. So the journal will send co-authors an email notification, as you could see from here, which includes deep links to verify co-authorship. Some journals will ask you also register or log in to confirm your co-authorship, which will also allow you to view the status of the submission on the author submission, the main menu from the folder, submission being processed, depending on the journal configuration. So you may also receive up to 2 reminders to verify your co-authorship. And we have also created an interesting video on co-author verification, frequently asked question video, and that is now going to be the link of which will now be posted in the chat section for your reference. So please do bookmark it for your reference. And the next thing we're going to see now here is like, did you know? So this is a did you know corner section where we provide some useful information for the authors about the submission process. And what we're going to see today is how do you choose the best keywords in research papers? So use relevant keywords. So the keywords should be able to attract the relevant crowd, be less competitive, and lead to a higher rank in search databases. Avoid abbreviations and acronyms. Abbreviations and acronyms could have multiple meanings based on the research field. Therefore, the use of these keywords could lead to irrelevant literature popping up on searches. Consequently, your paper would not rank higher on search databases. The next thing is test your keywords, which is really essential. So to ensure that you have the best possible list, test it out using databases like Google Scholar. So if your search term doesn't yield enough papers similar to yours when you search in Google Scholar, then you may want to revise or omit the term. This way, you can generate a refined list that you can finally use. And if you're still unsure on whether you have the most strategic keywords, Elsevier Author Services are here to help you out. So please do visit the Elsevier Author Services page, which will give you more tips on how to choose the best keywords for your research paper. Okay, so that brings us to our end of a webinar today. So thank you for listening to us. After the session, we'll send you an email that will contain some helpful links to the webinar recording and some of the short video guides that relate directly to the topic today. So please look out for that email. And now please take a few moments to complete the short survey that will appear on your screen as you could see now. And your answers will really help us deliver more webinar this like. So thank you again for joining us and see you next time.